Hello, in this short lecture I will give you a couple of reasons for the non-existence of God. The first reason why God doesn't exist is because of the fact that God is perfect, so he would have never created such an imperfect world. The second reason why God doesn't exist is that God would have never created the human beings that are capable to do sins and crimes and so on. And we can ask the simple question why God created the human beings from the beginning. If he wanted to put them to the test, then it makes no sense, because from the beginning he could have created perfect creatures that are not capable to do sins and crimes and any wrong at all. And then he didn't have to put to the test anyone. So we should also remember that God knows what will happen in the future, and for that reason he knew that the human beings will do evil sins and crimes and so on. So why he created them from the beginning? As I have already said, he could have created perfect creatures that are not capable to do evil at all. And for that reason we can say that God didn't create this world, and therefore God doesn't exist. The third reason why God doesn't exist is because that God could have never created such a reality in which there are so much violence and deaths and murders and so much humans suffering, so much wars, so much poverty and hunger, so much natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, hurricanes and so on. So God would have never created such a bad world. The fourth reason why God doesn't exist is that God would have never created such a reality in which the predator, the very existence of the predator, is dependent in his ability to kill the prey. The very existence of the lion is dependent in his ability to kill the lamb or the deer or any other animal in order to survive. So such cruelty that exists in this world and such injustice could have never been created by God that defined as perfect. And therefore God doesn't created this world, and therefore God doesn't exist. The fifth reason why God doesn't exist is that there are three monotheistic religions. Monotheistic is defined as a belief in one God or the oneness of God. And those religions are the Judaism, the Christianity, and the Islam. And they actually contradict each other in their explanation or in their description of how God created the world. and they are also, they don't have the same God. The God of the Judaism is not the same God as the God of the Christianity or the God of the Islam. So because of all those contradictions and the differences in gods, we can say that they are all false, they are all fake, they are not true. And these religions were created by the human beings. And also God was created by the human beings. It is the invention of the human beings, and therefore God doesn't exist. And the sixth and the last reason why God doesn't exist is actually there is a logic reason for the non-existence of God. And we can say that logically it is impossible that such an entity that is all power exists. It is impossible that such a being that is omnipotent can exist. And why, I will explain why. Because we can ask the simple question, if God is able to create such a stone that he himself cannot lift. If the answer to that question is positive, so we can deduce it from it that God is not able to lift the stone that he himself created, and therefore God is not omnipotent, God is not all power. And if the answer to that question is negative, then we can say that God is not able to lift the the stone that he himself created, or God is not able to create such a big stone that he himself cannot lift. And for that reason he is not omnipotent, he is not all power. Anyway, from that example we can deduce that such an entity that is omnipotent, logically it is impossible that it exists. Or such a being that is all power, logically it is impossible that it exists. And therefore that God that is defined as all power, logically it cannot exist, and therefore God doesn't exist. So those were all the reasons why God doesn't exist at all. Okay, thank you very much.